I'm going to start. Good evening and welcome to this BMF webinar in partnership with Spur. My name is Kanya Ngwenya. I'm going to be the facilitator for this evening. As I've mentioned, we've got 60 minutes allocated to this webinar. 40 minutes is going to be for Ivan's presentation, and we've got 20 minutes for the Q&A. We ask you to please mute yourself. We will allow you at the end to pose your questions. So as it's been mentioned that we are hosting Ervine Kekana, we'll be discussing franchisee opportunities within the Spur brand. Franchising in South Africa is a thriving industry with numerous opportunities across various sectors. The purpose of this webinar is to look at retail franchising as both an investment and entrepreneurial journey. We encourage our members to diversify their investment portfolios by looking at alternative investments, as such as franchising. So we're hoping that this evening's webinar will empower you to look at franchising as an alternative in diversifying your portfolio. Buying a franchise is considered as an investment. It obviously involves a significant initial capital outlay. A goal is to generate a return on that investment through profits and operating a franchise. However, unlike passive investment, it's a business decision with active management and huge responsibility, which enables you to maximize your return of investment. This evening, we are joined by Mr. Ervine Kekana, who has a wealth of experience and is an expert in franchising. He's going to talk us through the Spur franchise options. He'll talk us through the processes, the costs associated with each brand. And before I hand over to Mr. Kekana, I would like to first just read his bio. Mr. Ivan Selati Kekana works for Spur Corporation as the Group Executive New Business. He works with the brand's Chief Operating Officer and the development team in ensuring that they secure the correct sites and attract ideal franchises for their brand. Continue the trade in locations where they produce great results with real return on investment. Ivan has been with the Spur Group for almost 2 years and has produced results across all business units. Ivan has over 30 years retail experience and previously worked for Yum International, KFC South Africa, Pick and Pay Property, Edgar's, Proud Foods Consulting, and Woolworths. He continues to add value at Spur Corporation and holds a master's degree in business with a specific focus on strategy as lens. He is in his last PhD studies, and to this end, Ivan has presented academic research papers internationally. Combined with 30 years retail experience, he has run his own franchise business and has real life experience of what it's like to own and run a franchise. He is a member of the South African Councils of Shopping Centers, also a member of the Property Owners Association and the Pacific Institute's management science. Further, Ivan has been involved in the Independent Electoral Commission since the advent of the South African democracy to ensure transformation in the industry. Ivan serves as a Spur executive team, as part of the Spur executive team, and he's the head of new business. He reports directly to the group CEO. Ivan's energy and passion is undeniable, and his excess of it can be it can be seen on the squash courts and in his Latin salsa dance floors. Ivan's biggest task is how can I help you grow your restaurants, a sound business and a growth partner. If you ever wondered why there's no Spur in your area, Ivan is the guy that you need to speak to. So, with that being said, good evening, Ivan, and welcome to the BMF. We are delighted to have you.
Thank
If
you.
you can please unmute and take us through your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you. It's an honor and a privilege. I've been involved with the BMF from very early days on when I was at Woolworths. So it's lovely to see the full circle, touching sides again and reaching out to the community. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. We've got a very tight presentation to show you, But what is important, please, is that I will be sharing my contact details at the end. If you do need further engagement and more engagement about each brand and the nuances of each brand and our pipeline where we're looking to grow, please take my details down, my email and my WhatsApp, and you're welcome to contact me after the session, and then we can spend a little bit more time. So I want to just make sure that I have covered the basis for today, and then we'll do the detailed discussions individually if you don't mind. So Spur Corporation, what a story, what a wonderful story. It's a South African brand, born and bred, and has been obviously with the company, with the community for a very long time. What's interesting about the Spur Corporation is that somebody asked me, what was your first experience of a restaurant when you sort of were growing up? And in all honesty, everybody's first experience of a restaurant has always almost been Spur or one of our competitors. And so to me, it represents literally the last 50, 60 years of South African restaurant and casual dining experience. And over the whole entire period, we've had the opportunity to acquire some brands. So it moved from just being Spur steak branches, and we always acquired some branches and have grown with the other brands as well. And most recently, the one that we've acquired is Doppio Zero. A lot of people were not aware that we acquired a stake, about 60% stake in Doppio Zero, about six months ago, more or less. Moshe will be able to correct me on that one. And with the Doppio Zero acquisition and our international footprint, we are now sitting with well over 700 restaurants, which means we're not only in South Africa, we are in Africa, SADC, and we've got overseas representation. So the opportunities for growth are there. They're absolutely clearly there. The other thing I want to say before I take you through the agenda is please be aware that most people's first job you ever get, most cases, it's normally a waiter in a restaurant. So we've got a critical role to play in South Africa just around employment and youth employment. But all of us have always been coming through the doors of Spur as customers. What happens if you take off that hat of being a customer and you look at Spur as an opportunity for business, something that you can hand over to your kids one day, something that you can hand over to your family to run one day, and something that you know we're not going to restrict your growth. If there's an opportunity for you to have more than one restaurant, what are those opportunities? Where are they currently lying? But what we are also fully aware of is that the industry, the casual dining industry is changing. So there are people who are wanting experiences where you want to have your family come and dine with you in the restaurant. So we've designed it in such a way that it is a family restaurant, but it gives you the opportunity to keep the kids in the kids area and you keep the adults in the adult area with lots of cameras to make sure there's safety. I'm sure you guys have seen that the kids get tagged as well, so that we know that it is a family environment. But it's important that I take you through the whole entire spectrum of the different brands so that you understand that we're trying to cater to your breakfast client, to your lunch client, into your dinner client. We're trying to cater to your transient client, the takeaway market client, the delivery client, and obviously those people who want to come and celebrate and sit in a restaurant, whether it's a birthday, a wedding, or just a girls' night out. So what's on the agenda for today? Very, very, very tight. Just a quick introduction that obviously has now been done. I want to take you through the brands so that you know which brands am I talking about. Because I think, there are some big conglomerates in South Africa that have got multiple brands. And some people sometimes get which brand belongs to which group wrong. So I want to just quickly take you through this so that you know exactly which brands belong to my area. And then I want to just take you through the setup costs so that you know more or less what the setup costs look like and what your obligations would be. It is quite critical for me to make sure that once we've identified a restaurant for you, that I make sure that you can get your money back in less than 5 years. So you will see that when I do the cash flow projections for you, I always will show you this is how much money you're paying, this is how it's going to work, and this is when you'll be able to get your money back so that you know that after 3 or 4 years you've paid it off and it's just pure cash coming back through to you. I also want to just take you through a 5-year cash flow, because I think a lot of time you hear people talking about franchising, and you just never quite see what it does if you're over-geared. I've had some people wanting to borrow 100% loan, and I want to just show you what an over-geared business does to you. It really does hold you back. There isn't really scope for growth. And then I want to just quickly talk about setup costs and why they are different and what you should do as a benchmark so that you more or less know where we are at. And then I want to just take you through our pipeline to show you how I find sites. how I negotiate with landlords, and how I make sure that we've got the AAA site, best location, best food, so that you're able to access the site, you're able to egress the site, and there's enough parking, and it's safe for the family environment. And then I want to just open up the floor at 1:45 so that we can just do some Q&As. You're welcome to type the questions in the chat. And then whatever I can't answer immediately, if you've dropped your email, I promise you I will send you an email with full-on answer to explain. And then obviously we'll do a closing at about 7 o'clock. So without further ado, let me get started. So you all are aware, Spur Steak Ranches, we've all known it and loved it for a very long time. We also own Rock-A-Mama, which is a brand that makes burgers. We also own Panarotti's Pizzas and Pasta. What's interesting about Panarotti's Pizzas and Pasta is that we don't only just sell Panarotti's Pizza and Pasta, there's also grills on the menu. So when you get a chance, please look through our menu. You will see that we actually do sell a little bit of pizza and pasta. Same thing for John Dory. That look that you're seeing of John Dory you've not seen before. This is the new look. We call it the Panama look. So that the old John Dory that you used to see with the fishes on the wall and stuff like that, we're moving away from there. We're moving on to a new kind of dining experience. So part of the rebranding and the look is to show you that John Dory has really moved into the next category in terms of a dining experience. Then you might be aware that we're on the Hossa Grill. It's a slightly elevated above casual dining, absolutely beautiful steaks. One thing that people are not aware of is that when you consume our food at Hossa Grill, we don't actually charge you corkage. So which means you can actually bring that favorite wine that your colleague has given you or your friends have given you. You've been holding on, wanting for a nice experience as to where can I take it, where can I have it? And if you're going to be coming through to our restaurant, we don't actually charge you corkage. You can enjoy your own personal wine that you brought from outside, which is really nice to have. Then I don't know if you know, but we also own Casabella. Really, this is your wood-fired pizza, pasta, and on the menu, it's also got some grills. And then we also own the Nikos. I think the closest one to a lot of you guys in Joburg will be the one out in Pine Slope, but Nikos we own. It's obviously Mediterranean food, absolutely delicious. I highly recommend that you please try the skinny lamb chops to die for. Very good stuff. I told you that we've acquired Doppio Zero, 60% of Doppio Zero. Doppio Zero partners, this is Mickey and Paul, still own 40% of Doppio Zero, so they're still there. We wanted to make sure that we don't lose the ethos of what Doppio Zero is about. Doppio Zero is a very well-known brand in Joburg, and we need to expand it into Cape Town, into Durban, into Eastern Cape, so that, give everybody the opportunity to experience what we have in Joburg. You might not be aware, but we also own Pizza Vino. Pizza Vino you would have seen out in Stellenbosch. Absolutely beautiful. This is handmade Italian food. So one of the things that you would notice is that all of this is a casual dining experience. And it's nice to have different kinds of pizza offerings, nice different kinds of pasta offerings. So I don't want you to think that you've got all our eggs in one basket. You might want to have a slightly more elevated dining experience. You would go for your Casabellas. You would have seen it in some of the casinos. You would have seen it in some of the regional malls. And if you're looking for a more convenient setting, looking at Stellenbosch, a smaller shopping center, you will find that a Pizza Vino is quite nice. And then in the corner, you will see that we've got Modern Tailors. Such a strange name for a restaurant, isn't it? But Modern Tailors is actually an inspiration that Paul and Paul's wife had when they were traveling in India looking for products to bring from India to South Africa. And they found literally tailors who would have right next to them an eating opportunity. And they thought it might be a nice opportunity to do that name, a Modern Tailor. So if you ever have time to visit our Modern Tailors out in Rosebank, at the zone, or out in Pretoria at Groenkloof, please go ahead. So you will find the Doppio Zero downstairs, and upstairs we've got the Modern Tailors. Delicious food. And I know a lot of people like to say a bunny chow in Durban is the best. You have got to try the bunny chow. It is absolutely to die for. Delicious food. The shish kebab, I'm particular to it. So I also highly recommend that when you get a chance, please try that menu. So these are the brands. This is what we're working with. What's nice is that you get a nice spread if you wanted to invest in the Spur. So I've got some franchisees who've got a Spur, we've got a Rock-A-Mama, we've got a Panarotti. I've got some who say, you know what, I prefer to do fish. So they've got a Nikos and a John Dory. And someone saying, you know what, I actually really prefer to focus on my evening dining experience, and therefore would have gone for the ones where you know that your evening will be quite big. So it's your Hossa Grill, the Spur. So you can do combinations. You can do one at a time. You can do, look, what I would encourage you to do is that should you decide to join us and grow with us, is possibly do one, run it for a couple of months, then do the next one, run it for a couple of months, then do the next one, run it for a couple of months. You will get to a point where you've got plenty. And one of the things I just want to tell you is that we've got multiples. We've got people who've got, 37 restaurants with us. One of our from a demonstration point of view, we've got some franchisees who only just want to have one, which is perfectly fine. We don't have a problem with that. I would encourage you that you try to have a spectrum of them so that you at least can balance out and offer a much bigger menu. With that said, there are some key people that help me deliver on these things here. These gentlemen here and the lady here are part of the team. The gentleman at the end looks after John Dory. Then I've got Amanda who looks after Spur. I've got Mornay who looks after Rocco Mama. Then I've got Cornelius who looks after Panarotti's. Speciality brand, because it's so particular. Justin looks after all three of them. So he would look after Hassa Grill, he looks after Nikos, and he looks after Casabella. And obviously, you've got myself as the new business head, meaning that I look for all the new sites. I negotiate with landlords. I would probably get involved with your negotiation of the lease. I'll get negotiation of the tenants if I can get the landlord to give you a bit of money. And you will see now when I start showing you the setup cost that sometimes it's good when you start haggling with the landlord to make sure that either he puts in the aircon for you, or he does something in terms of the shop fronts for you, or he actually gives you cash to try to offset some of the setup costs, because to really start a restaurant is and can be quite expensive. And then obviously I've got Vuyo Henda, which is our chief marketing executive, absolute fountain of information, and she guides me in terms of getting that profile right. How we're doing the breakfast menu, how we're doing the lunch menu, which areas are we targeting, which brands are we putting where. And she's quite a don of marketing, and I do rely on a lot. So let's get into it. This is a very, very, very busy slide. And I'm going to just quickly, it's important that we spend a little bit of time on this one, because what it does, it sets the tone for the other ones that I'm going to, then it's going to go quite quickly to see how it goes. The easiest way for you to look at this thing is, I want you to look at one block at a time. So this is the one block where you've got standard Spur and an estimated turnover that you would make on a monthly basis. And I give you roughly what the trading density looks like per square meter. And then I also do an indication of what the size would look like, 440 square meters. And I show you that, for this particular size store, you might want to have 80 square meters for the kids area. And in terms of the setup cost for you to actually build this restaurant, you're looking at between 7.2 to 7.9 million rand. Now, you would know that, okay, cool. Now that you have to go raise the funds for this, you're in for about 7.2 to 7.9. We do have a requirement that you have 50% of the money. It's important that you have this thing. I know that my colleagues and my friends at NEF and at the bank have all asked, but is there any way we can work with a model where we can maybe potentially start looking at 100%? And it's difficult, because when I show you the cash flow, the minute you punch in 100%, it just completely takes away the profitability. I need to be able to help you achieve either a 10% return on, a 10% gross profit, or at least minimum 6%. And I'll show you why I mean 10 and 6. The next thing I want to just quickly show you is that on the next block, it shows you a slightly smaller trading density one, which we're moving from 440 down to a 380. And that's slightly cheaper at 6.8 million. Again, 50% that you would need to put up, much smaller kids play area. And remember, the kids play area has got, all the cameras that you need to track the kids with, and all the tags as well. However, you might find that maybe around you, there's already a Spur, and there isn't an opportunity for you to do a special one or anything like that. But for either in Eastern Cape, wherever that you've got family and friends, and you know that you might be able to get them employed with this, there is a small town Spur, very small, 320 square meters, and this will set you back 5.7 million. You would note that I've given you a range of 5 to 5.7 million. I just mentioned the big number. With clever accounting, with clever cost management, you might be able to get this thing tighter. But what we do is that once we've found a site for you, and we've agreed that this is going to be the site, and you've been interviewed and everything's going according to plan, is that one of the things we do is that we get you a full setup cost with multiple quotes, so that you can actually then start nitpicking around what do you want to do to sort of bring the cost down. But we help you as much as we can. We've got a project team. So once we've identified a site and we've approved you and you've got the money, you will see that the project team will give you like a schedule to say, like, okay, you've got 3 months to open this. There's some time that you need to go spend training, learning how to run your restaurant. If you don't know, you might find that there'll be pilferage, there might be stock loss. So it's better to go for the training so you can see. If you're not there, you've traveled overseas or you've traveled somewhere else, you can trust the system, that the system works. Look, we've got regional teams that come and visit your store to make sure things are being run properly. And they're there on a weekly basis to make sure that things are being done 100%. And we've got obviously food audits and we've got quality audits. And obviously we really look at customer feedback. If you get any kind of customer feedback that tells us that you're not running the restaurant properly, we tend to jump quite quickly to come and see. The middle column talks to really big boxes. This is now your 560 square meter. This is now Mall of Africa size, which will set you back about 10.1 million. But you understand in terms of, it's Mall of Africa, you need to go bigger. You need to have a much bigger play area. And you can expect to do about 2.4 million. But understand those ones have got a lot of people chasing because they understand the value of those ones. So there's a lot of people showing interest in those ones. And then there is an opportunity for you to also do a freestanding drive-through. This is quite tricky because obviously you identify drive-throughs as quick service restaurants. You don't see it as a sit-down restaurant. So this is a new concept and we're working on it and we will refine it. But if on the land, we take the value of the land and we take the size that you're going to be building of 480 square meters and we have about 100 parking bays, you will get about 12.6 million. This would be ideal for Valcom. This would be ideal for Polokwane. This would be ideal for because we've already got one out in Pretoria. What we're encouraging our franchisees to do who are already currently existing is like, listen, we've noticed that the coffee market is doing very well. And we've asked them to carry on, do coffee kiosks at our Spur. You would have seen it on the airport when you fly out, that there's a little kiosk that says coffee. I think does very well. It'll only set you back 200,000, but you can be guaranteed that you'll be doing, about 180,000 a month. But it's the trick with this one is now negotiating a good rental from the landlord so that you've got the right thing. And then obviously we've got the drive-throughs that we need to be pushing. And then here is a clip-on. A clip-on is you've got a Spur, sit-down Spur, but there's still additional space and you then build next to it a clip-on. And that has reticulation for cars and you do a drive-through so that you've got some customers who just don't want to sit down in the restaurant and you give them that opportunity. In the sit-down restaurant, you will have a separate door where you will have all the delivery guys, so the guys can still go do delivery for you, so that you've got multiple options to sell to customers, drive-through customers, delivery customers, and sit-down customers who want to celebrate birthdays. And then, of course, the last one. And this is a tiny one, and I want you to think about this because this is a nice way to whet your appetite to get you into the game. If you don't want to do the 5, 6, 7 million rand, and you're not sure if you really love this the process of being a restaurateur, that there's an opportunity for you to do a much smaller one, which is a 100 square meter little takeaway. Those are nice little ones. And what's nice with this little takeaway is because I've got a nice little takeaway for Spur, I've got a nice little takeaway for John Dory, and I've got a nice little takeaway for Panaroti, and I've got a nice little takeaway for Rokomama. You can sit back and say, well, what happens if I find 400 square meters, split it up, and I can get 4 restaurants in one go? But just be aware, each one to set up, the back of house costs are quite important to note. So you are looking at each one at about 2.4 million. So you might be saving yourself the trouble of going through a big box, but at 400 square meters, you're still going to be in for about 10 million because it's 2.5 million rand each. So keep that in mind. I'm going to push on. The same concept, and I'll email this through to you. The same concept applies for Rokomamas. Can I ask that we put our laptops on mute, please? I can hear a lot of talking in the background. This is the Rokomama brand. The Rokomama brand, same story where I've got the 240 square meter one at about 5 Is there no way to mute them? Is there no way to mute them? Oh, can we push them off? Okay, all right. So the Rokomama format very much same as the Spur one, where I've got multiple ones. So you can do a 240 square meter one. There's a 210 square meter one at about 4.4 million. The one that I would recommend that we look at for your initial investment is start looking at your 180 square meter one. Those are nice small ones. You can do them in small towns as well. So your capital outlay is not so heavy on you. I believe that this is the brand that you really should be considering if you want to do drive-throughs. We've got 2 of them at the moment. We've got one out in Barton Freedom Park, and we've got one out in Pretoria. When you are ready, let me know. I'll be more than happy to take you so I can show you how those look like. And then I've got Rocker Go Food Court. These ones working very well. We're finding that they're working very well at casinos. We're working very well in a shopping center that is so massive, like Sainton, where you can then choose to have a small representation in the food court and then still have maybe something outside as well. So keep that in mind. You will see the Rokotena. I'm sure if you've been to Kailami or you've been to any of the concerts, you see this truck coming in and it's got Rokomama on it. So that talks to that. But understand it's not cheap. It is also quite expensive at 3.1 million, and that excludes the cost of the truck itself. Then we've got Panarottis. I think Panarottis is a special one. And one of the most interesting ones is the one out in Soweto, because when you get there, you find that it's a sharing meal. It's a big pizza. You can slice it up and the whole family can eat. I'm sure you guys have had some of our Monsterito. They're absolutely gorgeous. The interesting thing about this is that you are looking at doing a turnover of about 1.2 million, especially with a big box of 370 square meters. If you go slightly smaller, you're 310, those ones your setup cost will set you back up at 5.5 million. And then for the small towns, you're looking at Ellerville North, King Williamstown, all the small towns, you can then start looking at a slightly smaller box of about maybe 190. And we're trying to make sure we push this thing under 4 million. Currently, the battle is to bring the cost down to the reason the costs are up is because you've got grills and fryers at the back. Your kitchen costs a lot of money. And those grills and back of house stuff, those things can set you back well over 11% escalation for this year, but those can actually substantially affect the cost of your restaurant. And then, of course, we've got the Panarotti pizza, which is the small concept. So keep in mind, the easiest way for you to get into this game is rather do the small ones, because then it gets your foot into the game. And then you can then start looking at doing a small John Dory, a small Panarotti, or a small. But if you're ready and you want to go big, I'll be more than happy to help you go for the big ones with 370 square meters one. Just keep in mind with a 370 or 340 square meter one, that your lease will probably be for 5 years. So you want to make sure that for the first 5 years, you've paid yourself back. You've paid the bank back so that you're not stuck with a problem, right? And you've looked after your stuff and you've looked after your operator, because maybe you're not there all the time. And what might be something for you to think about is, do you bring family in, or do you get an operator who knows the restaurant business? And how do you make sure he's still interested in the business? And potentially you give him 10%, 15% shares into the business so that he's committed to the cause. This is John Dory. John Dory, we've got the big box of 340 square meters, and the current standard John Dory, you're looking at about 300 square meters. That'll set you back about 5.2 million. If you've been to Cape Town recently and you've been to Grand West Casino, you would have seen that we've got a John Dory seafood sushi. This is a very, very small 100 square meter little box. It works perfectly in terms of going to the food court. We've obviously done something out in Durban as well. I honestly highly recommend that. This is one way of getting in. And I'll show you why I say this, because this opportunity allows you to start going into markets that we were not previously represented in. Just a quick one. This is the specialty brands, a Hassa Grill. They're normally about 400 square meters big, and they're in for about 7.1 million. This, you do need an elevated dining experience. I'm sure you've seen our Hassa Grills. If you've got a few minutes, maybe towards the end, I can show you some images of how they look like. This is your evenings. I did say to you that, again, we don't charge corkage. We do sell wine in it. But interestingly, because people know that they don't have to pay corkage and they can bring their own wine, we're still finding that a wine participation when they buy our own wine in the restaurant is quite high. So you mustn't think that we're giving money away to customers. Honestly, we find that once they've drank their own favorite bottle, they end up going through our cellar and finishing the rest of it. We've got the Casabella, 380, very bespoke. This is your Italian pasta offering. You're in for about 6.4 million. And then we've got the standard Nikos. Now, I'm sure if you guys have driven around Pine Slot, you would have seen it. And this is about 270 square meters. This is Greek food, so it's very Mediterranean. So again, here you need to be very clever and nuanced as to selecting the area where you want to put it. It has to be in a high LSM environment. Otherwise, you will struggle a little bit. Right. As I told you earlier on, we have acquired Doppio Zero. Mickey and Paul on 40%, and we as Spur Corporation on 60%. Doppio Zero's, if you've been to Doppio Zero, to Bedfordview, to East Bedfordview, to Groenkloof or Cape Town or anywhere, you would note that they're different. Every single Doppio Zero is different, and that's what's special about the brand. You want to have that there. But the trick with making them different is not just in the furniture and the look and feel. It's also about the experience that people have. What is important and critical is to make sure that you understand that at a 400 square meter end, you need to get a good rental in order for you to be able to afford the setup cost of 8 million in order to pay yourself back in less than 5 years. We've got the Pizza Vino at 300 square meters, 5.4 million. And then we've got Modern Tailors. This one I've put on, but I just want to play open cards with you. We're not yet ready to franchise this one. I'm putting it on just to whet everybody's appetite about it, because if you had to really think about Modern Tailors, and you will see when you go to Rosebank to go taste the food there, and you will see it when you go to Groenkloof to go taste the food there, it's bespoke. This is an elevated Indian cuisine food, and we've just taken it to the next level. And in order to get this right, it's tight, and you need to unfortunately be there every day. So we would encourage that you look at all the other brands. This one, we're not yet franchising. We will in time, but it's just to whet your appetite. I actually think, in all honesty, the next one that we're going to probably build will probably be the VMA Waterfront, just to make sure that we've got the right area and the right location. I've put this up because I wanted you guys to know that we are pursuing strategic partnerships, and I'm finding a lot of people who own garages are beginning to call me now. So whether they're owning Caltex's or BP's or Total's or Astron, obviously Caltex, Astron, Energy, that people are beginning to ask, listen, I would like to put up a RocoMamas in my Astron Energy as I'm revamping, because remember there's R1 billion that Astron has put down in order to do the revamps. So there is an opportunity to say, you're already a dealer, you're already involved with the fuel partner, you already understand business around managing your own business. Here's an opportunity to take a brand. And I mentioned this because it is becoming quite prevalent, and you start seeing a lot of RocoMamas, a small little Spur takeaways, a small little John Dory's, a small little Panarottis. And especially if you travel throughout Africa, you would notice that we actually have got an interesting relationship with Vivo when we are represented in some of the small courts. So keep that in mind. Yes, over and above the millions of rands that I have spoken earlier on about, please note that there is a specific franchising fee that we take in the specific licensing fee, and it's only 200,000. And remember, if you have to compare this to my competitors, that number is a lot higher. So at 200,000 for your licensing fee, it's not too bad. And obviously, we've got a slightly different scale for the takeaways, and you'll see it goes all the way down in terms of how much each one of those is. We only really change this once every 3 years. It's not changed all the time. So just keep that in mind, that there is this franchisee fee that is also included in the setup cost that I showed you in terms of this particular thing here. I'm going to just quickly stop sharing and reshare something so I can just take you through. I'm going to put this slide up again towards the end, which has got my email address and it's got my contact details in case you want to talk a little bit more. But I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can just put up a normal, call it cash flow. So you can just see more or less what's involved with the setup cost and why I think getting 100% loan might be a bit tricky, that you want to put skin in the game, you want to put some money down, you want to have sold, some asset in order to make sure that you've actually, put something down. So it'll just take 1 second and I'll just reshare again. So this is specifically to do with, what kind of restaurant, because remember, I want to make sure that you've seen the cost right up front and there isn't any kind of confusion as to how would it look like. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is that I want to make sure that you understand that if you are not there, if you're not managing your restaurant, and if you haven't gone for the training, people will find shortcuts and it will cost you money. So this is a very straightforward cash flow statement. I've just done a quick one before the meeting started. You want to make sure that when you're running these restaurants, that the cost of the fixed cost is at about 38%. Once the fixed cost starts going over 38% to 39, 40, 41, there's a chance that something's going wrong in your restaurant. I call it an indicator. As soon as you see that your margin is getting compromised, something is going wrong in the back of house. So what I've done is I've taken a very basic number of 1.4 million and said, right, 1.4 million. Out of that, how would it look like? What's involved in this cost of sale that I'm talking about? The food cost is 38%, quite reasonable. Remember, you've got staff. These guys have been standing the whole entire day, feeding your customers. If you want to stop any kind of pilferage, you make sure that there's a meal for them, and you allocate some money to say, you know what, I want them to be able to eat in the store so that it doesn't hurt your business, and you know that they are not taking things through the back door. And when I email this through to you, if you guys are interested to become franchisees, I've left it as an Excel spreadsheet so you can play around and plug in and change and see how much money do I want to actually invest and give my staff so that they're eating. Note that we'd love to give toys. So this is an example of a Spur, obviously, not an example of everything else. We love to give toys to kids. So you just want to be able to allocate some money towards that. And that also comes out of your cost of sales. You would notice that I've put a very, very reasonable amount of 1% for delivery. But if you've made the choice to be at Park Station or made the choice to be at a high transient market where people don't necessarily want to sit down, but instead are looking for an opportunity to collect the food, you might find that your packaging shoots up because they're not eating using cutlery in the store. You're packaging the food and they're taking it away. And that might start pushing your number to maybe 1.2, whatever the case is, which affects, again, your cost of sales. So your gross profit at 60% is an ideal benchmark. You want to keep this under 40. The minute it goes over 40, I promise you, something is going wrong in the back. It does then mean that there's pilferage or stock is going missing, or there's not good rotation, or there's just bad management. Keep in mind, if you're not watching this number, and the staff will know. They'll kind of quickly figure out, oh, you only pitch up for an hour and you're gone. Oh, no, you only pitch up once a week. They will know. Now, the franchisees who've got, 14, 15 stores, 20 stores, have given shares to the operators to make sure that if they're not there, these guys who are there are still interested. They're still running those businesses as tightly as possible and giving great customer service. And remember, great customer service also means that wherever we've got the loyalty card, where we get feedback from customers, we talk about how you serve them, how long it took you to actually bring the food, all those things helps us make sure that we can bring these food costs down. A couple of things that I want you just to be aware of. Obviously, we've got variable overheads. 23% is a good number. And the reason I mentioned that is that there's advertising. I encourage you, because it's your restaurant, to do your own local advertising in the local school and local area. Because we take 4% and we put it into a guild that covers all franchises. And we run TV adverts and we run newspaper adverts. So we encourage you so that people know who you are in that community, in the area that you live in. Spend 1%. It doesn't have to be 1.5%. Spend 1%. If you feel that it's too much, you want to do a little bit less. I don't have oh gosh, that's too much. We don't want to do that, and that's still too much. Okay, maybe I should just leave it at 1%. The thinking is, if the community sees you investing in the school sports and things like that, they will support you. I haven't put a number down for bad debts, but we've got a very strong pilot system in terms of point of sale. But if you're not managing your point of sale, there will be bad debts. So you want to make sure that you're on top of that. Bank charges, especially with credit card, as you're seeing more and more people are paying with credit card, that's going to absolutely affect you. It's a restaurant, it's food. You want to have very strong pest control. The last thing you want to have somebody complaining that your restaurant is not clean. Oh my gosh, we're running out of time. That's amazing. Let me go faster. So it's an income statement. I can talk to every one of these things and I can explain to you what they are. I just want to bring your attention to franchisee fee. We take 5%, that's our cut. And then obviously, as I explained to you, the 4% is not really ours, it's actually for everybody, and that's for advertising. All of these ones we can talk and debate it, but there are different costs to it. Some landlords sometimes will ask you to contribute towards the generator cost and things like that. And we can negotiate pro rata consumption instead of doing a straightforward consumption. Keep in mind that I have not spent a lot of time talking about cutlery and replacement, but people will take your cutlery. So just keep in mind, or they will break your glasses and stuff. So take in mind that you always need to have that amount. I'm going to just jump quickly through to your overheads. Obviously, if you've got multiple businesses and you've got an accountant, you need to account for your own accounting. And then if when we do come and do audits, we would want to have audited accounting information from your accountant. Insurance is a good idea. You've seen, I mean, I think Palabora, one of the restaurants burned down, the center burned down and the restaurant burned down. So just have insurance. And you remember with the riots, a lot of restaurants were damaged and insurance paid, and quite a lot of people were able to go back into business. So just pay your insurance, you'll be fine. I've highlighted interest payment here. This is when you've taken 50% of the money to cost the store. You're looking at about 27,000 rand. Obviously, if you've got the cash, life is easier and things become a lot more manageable. But if you can't afford it and you've taken a loan, again, highly recommended it's not more than 2% in terms of your interest charges, so that at least you know that you'll be able to get the money back in 5 years. Labor, I will recommend that you just work with the 20%. What it means is that you've got a management cost of about 5%. Your back of house, you know, the griller, the guy who makes the food in the back. Those guys are hardcore. And they make the success of your restaurant. I know some franchisees who are actually paying the griller in the back a lot more than he pays the manager, because he knows that guy's a machine. He can produce a lot of food. He can handle a lot of food as well. Front of house staff, unfortunately, or fortunately, sorry, I'd rather say that, you need to, it's not a buffet. You need to have table service, meaning that you probably would need to have minimum 12 staff members as waiters so that you can cover the shifts. The last thing you want to have is people complaining that the waiters are taking too long to come through. So I've just put there about a 4% so you can see where we are at. I'm going to leave all of those because it's a night trading restaurant. You also just need to keep in mind that you need to get the staff home. So just allocate money for that as well. I'm almost finished. Rental is a tough one. You would notice I put 5% there. 4%. I'm being very ambitious. There are some restaurants that are currently paying 8%, 9%. So this can really trick you. It's important that in the lease negotiation, we get this right, because some landlords will ask you for a marketing fund, but you're already paying marketing to Spur and you're already doing your own marketing. I haven't put down rates and taxes, but rates and taxes, 29 Rand per square meter in Joburg. You might be lucky in Cape Town at 15 Rand per square meter, and Polokwane it's about 20 Rand per square meter. So keep that in mind. Some landlords might actually ask for a rent turnover, meaning that they will say to you, you don't have to pay us rent, but just give us a turnover, and the turnover will be 6% to 7%. So if you make money, they make money. If you don't make money, you don't make money, but then it's locked in at 6%. Oh, we're running out of time. Okay. I talked a little bit earlier on about it's important that we keep this number in mind. I talked about 10%. In this case, with this particular spreadsheet that I'm just showing you, this person is able to achieve a profit of 8%. That is 125,000 Rand on sales of 1.4 million. Keep that in mind, that you are literally chasing 8%. If you have a loan and you've taken 50% of the loan and you pay off that loan at 37,000 Rand, chances are you'll be left with about 6%, which is about 87,000 Rand a month. From a 1.4 million, it's a lot of work. Average size is about 400 square meters, number of seats about 150 seats. Most customers spend about 182 Rand. You want to know how many customers do I need to have in the restaurant to make 1.4 million? And how much do they actually need to spend in my store? How many customers do I need to have on a monthly basis? And then, of course, this matrix just literally just takes the 7 million Rand that you would have gotten to invest in the setup cost. You would have gotten 3.5 million Rand. And then obviously the balance would be money that you would have put together. And I know the first question everybody's going to ask me is, who do you know who's got 3.5 million Rand sitting down somewhere? It is a tough question, but I highly recommend that you put some skin in the game. Anything less than that, it hurts your business, because what happens is if the sales drop, this doesn't drop, and your interest doesn't drop, and your rental doesn't drop, and your staff costs don't drop. So meaning that the more loans you take to try to run this business, the more it's going to just hurt you. Okay, I'm almost finished because 49 minutes. I talk a lot. So what have I got? What I'm showing you now is the spread of South Africa. So this is just literally, I'm hoping it appears on your screen. This is what I've done is I've just literally mapped every single restaurant that we have in South Africa. And if you look at this particular map, you will see Cape Town concentrated, got lots of things there. Looking at Eastern Cape, you can see we're concentrated there. Durban, lots of concentration there. And obviously Joburg. It's important for me to make sure that you remain profitable, meaning that I will not build a restaurant close to you within a 1 kilometer radius. So Joburg, yes, is full. It's got lots and lots and lots of restaurants. But it does mean there is an opportunity to then try a different brand and different brand and a different brand. Where we're not full is places like your Kruan stuff we're not full, Allowell North we're not full. So there is an opportunity to go out there, but we want to make sure that we're also going to make money. So we don't want to go choose a place where you're not going to make money. The last thing you want to do is to look at Kuruman for argument's sake. In as much as Kuruman is growing, we've only got one restaurant there. We've tried two, it burnt out, it burnt our fingers, and we had to close it down. So we know, okay, Kuruman, there's about 60,000 people that live there, one restaurant. You want to have 5,000 customers supporting your restaurant. If you're able to attract just 10% of that community, you're in the money, because 5,000 gets you over R1 million in terms of, say, if they're spending 180 rand per person coming in. Yeah. And then obviously I will then say to you, just know your breakfast will be about 10%, your lunch will be about 40%, and the balance will be your supper. So I've got a good idea as to where we are full, where we would like to go. But even in Joburg, I mean, look at Mall of Africa for argument's sake. Mall of Africa, we don't have a John Dory there. There's an opportunity, so you don't have to necessarily go far. You can do something close by. Okay, I can see that I'm running out of time.
Kev, good evening, colleagues. I think I must just come in there because we're going to miss the deadline that we agreed. We might necessarily miss the Q&As because I think that would be critical that people ask you. And I'm also going to take your option of allowing people to take your details and they contact you offline. I also want to indicate that Kanyo had to, run around with something urgently, but she did disclose. That's why I'm taking over now. Also to introduce myself, I'm Tebogo Siularo, and I'm also part of the committee that made this available. But I just want to thank you. I need assistance in terms of how we're going to take, because I do know that you've got another colleague that also has to come in. I think his name is Neo.
Mr. Moshe.
Yes.
Mr. Moshe.
Yes, I think we are going to go above. I don't know if the time limits would allow us, maybe that we allow Mr. Moshe to come in, because there might be other things that you want to, that the colleagues would want to, seek clarity on, that Moshe would then deal with. Is he available now that he can come in?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you so much, Ntate Moshe. Let me allow you. Are you going to use the same presentation that Mr. Kekana is using, or you've got your own?
I'm not going to present. It's fine.
You are not going to present. Can we then leave the details of Mr. Kekana so that the colleagues can write it down or do screenshots, and then the floor is yours, sir?
Okay, thanks, my brother. Thanks, Tebogo. Good evening, everyone. I'm not going to be long. My name is Moshe Apleni. I'm the group executive for transformation in SpurCorp, and suffice to say that this is a start of an initiative where we really want to just take the organization.
Moshe, sorry to disturb. Dr. Ivan, can I request that you mute yourself, because the background is
it too much noise?
Yeah, just mute for the presentation of Moshe, and then you'll come in. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so for us, it's about taking our brands and really franchising to a wider audience, and this is a start. This is a start of this initiative, and I must just declare I'm a long-standing member of Black Management Forum. So we are doing this to take it far, but I've realized that part of the questions, and maybe we're running out of time, would be the how, and also, the biggest thing that we do offer. I've got my other colleague here, Nkululeko, as well on the call. The other thing that we do offer is that there's hand holding and training that you do get as part of becoming a franchisee of SpurCorp, and all of this is really about that. So I just wanted to say we do have a transformation imperative and an intent in the organization, and we are out there reaching out because we want to transform the makeup of the franchisee makeup in the organization. And but I mean, Mr. Kekana is the subject matter here today, and I'm just supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Moshe. Colleagues, I think this is where we want to hit the ground running. I'm opening the floor for questions and answers. But for now, Ivan, I'm going to read some of, can I just read 4 at a time? And then you come in, and then we'll take whatever it takes so that there's a little bit of order before we do that. The first one is Lubalelo Sinyi Lili. Sorry if I butchered your surname. Can you have the coffee kiosk as a standalone, not attached to any restaurant? That's one. 2, are you looking for experienced restaurateurs? That's from Anonymous. And then Utabam Bukhop is asking, what arrangement/offers do you have for BMF members besides the generic packages open for the entire public? He's actually leading us to have a conversation. And then there's also Klo Ratau. Good evening, colleagues. Thank you for the informative presentation. It was really awesome. Ntate Kekana, is it possible for you to share your presentation and the recording, sir, for purposes of referring back? Let's take those questions first. And then if there's additional, then we will do so. If there's not, and there's no questions, then I will do the closing. I thank you.
Okay, I'm going to give Nguleo a chance to answer the standalone coffee because it's a very particular question. I don't know, Nguleo, if you're able to take that for me.
Hi everyone, how's it, Evan? Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, no, it's quite a tricky question, and at the moment the answer will be no. And I think to Evan's presentation, because you'll need the back of house. So we really don't have like drawings of a coffee kiosk without the back of house. We'll still need the brick and mortar of a restaurant to assist you with the coffee setup. So at the moment, no, it has to be a clip-on to an existing restaurant.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nguleo. I really appreciate you joining us as well. Thank you.
Pleasure.
I think the other question, the second question had to do with if you could just remind me again, the second question was
the second question was, are you looking for experienced restaurants?
Yes. So not necessarily. So what Nguleo and the operations team do is that they take you through a 10-week training program, which takes you through modules, and each module has got to do with certain parts of the back of house, in terms of how the kitchen is set up, in terms of how food preparation works, and in terms of food safety. And then there's the front of house in terms of service. Then there's point of sale. Then there's a section on finance where we teach you on our pilot system how to do your accounting and how to do your banking and how to do your reporting. And then obviously there's the next part, which is how do you then start looking at your menu and menu combinations and things like that. So 10 weeks. At the end of the 10 weeks, I promise you, you'll be a sound franchisee. And please, I must just tell you something. Some of our competitors love to send people for training to us because they know how detailed the training is. And remember, because the operating team comes and visits your store on a regular basis, it does mean that training gets reinforced every time a regional manager comes in, or every time an area manager comes in, or every time somebody from head office comes in. We want to make sure that we are serving the best quality food. What was the next question?
The next question was, okay, to share the slides.
Okay.
Yeah, it's to share the slides. And Mohammed Sheikh Ahmad is asking what is the cost of training? Is it something he pays for, or is it part of it? He's asking that.
Yeah, you know what I try to do? When I do that setup cost, I try to make sure there is no surprises. So that setup cost that I've quoted, whether it was 5 million or 6 million, includes the licensing fee, the 200,000 rand that I mentioned, the spread. It includes the training, and the training will set you back about 74,000, because what we do is we send you to the best performing Spur in your area, in the region, and those guys feel that we're training you, we're showing you how to do it. So the franchisee would then send you a bill to say, okay, I've trained so many of your waiters for the certain period of time. It won't be 10 weeks. For waiters, it might be slightly shorter, but for your management team, it will be obviously long, and then there will be a bill that comes out of it. Just something as well, maybe I didn't clarify. To build a restaurant takes 60 days. And during those 60 days, you will find that once we've agreed the cost of what it's going to be, is that if the tiler is finished, you don't have to give us the 5 million rand up front. If the tiler is finished, you pay the tiler. If the windows are finished, you then pay the windows, which means the project team on every single Friday will sit down and show you what's been completed with the builds. It takes us 60 days to build a restaurant, and they will send you the quotes and they will send you what needs to be paid. But they do it properly, so there isn't any funnies that happen. And you would have, as a franchisee, had 3 quotes to see which one do I want to go with. And you understand, oh, so the table has cost me so much, the tile has cost me so much, the fridge has cost me so much. So there is no surprises. In terms of me sending this presentation, I just need to maybe remove 1 or 2 IP information. I don't want our competitors to get a hold of too many things. So I might send it, but I might maybe take some numbers off. But then you still get the message. And then when you send me a connection and we start talking about how do we go into this business, I will send you an application form and I'll set up a meeting with you. Our head office is out here in Woodmead. I'd be more than happy to take you through and share, because then I will have your application form and then I will know that you're committed. Then I'll be more than happy to show you everything. And then once we've got that sorted out and the interview's been done, you've been approved and we've got the right site for you, we'll watch you grow. Seat at the table.
Thank you so much, colleagues. I just need to disclose that I'm on load shedding. I can't see anything right now. But besides that, Mr. Kekana, I just need to, I've got 2 critical questions that I need to ask.
Sure.
Many of our attendees tonight are young professionals and first-time entrepreneurs. What would you say are the 3 non-negotiable ones one must have to succeed in owning and running a SpurCorp franchise? The 3 elements that they besides the issue of capital. And the second question is that Spur Corporations owned, I think, plus minus 10, if I counted correctly, from family to dining to your fast casual, and like you were trying to say. Which of these brands do you see as the most accessible or ideal entry point for emerging Blackpreneur? And I'm specific about Black because I think we are intentional in what we are doing now. To say Black entrepreneur, looking at our culture, the way we do things, and why would you say that? Those are the 2 things that I just want to find out.
Okay, it'll be interesting to hear what Moshe thinks and what Ngulego thinks. But my view, a well-run restaurant means that you know your customer and you know your operations. The success of it is that you need to be there on a continuous basis. I understand you can't live in there, but if you've empowered your team and you are sharing the wealth with your team, your operator, and giving him a stake in the business, it does allow you to have a little bit of time on your hands as well. So you got to know. There's some franchisees every single Monday would put up the food costs and they would discuss the food costs with the whole entire restaurant. The more details you share with your staff, the better. The more you grow them, the more they will grow you. And they will allow you the opportunity to then scale up. Attention to detail is critical. If you're not doing your stock counts, if you're not managing those processes, your business will fall apart. And stuff quickly figure out, he doesn't come here. And then your business will fall apart. You need to pitch up. You need to come and look at it. The one thing I also wanted to say to all of us here is, you mustn't try to own this on your own. Sometimes it's difficult.
Yes.
It might be worthwhile that you've got society and there's 4 or 5 of you, that you put money together as 4 and 5 and you buy the first one. Meaning that it doesn't have to be that you go now suffer on your own, trying to get the loan, trying to run everything on your own. If you've got brothers and sisters, you form a partnership. If you've got a society, some good friends of yours that you trust, you form a partnership and you buy the first one. You buy the first one, the smallest one, and you start from there. Meaning that the commitment is every single day, one of the partners is there to look after it. And in time, you'll scale up and add a business, other businesses to this whole thing. But start small. Don't have to go big. We were talking the other day, there's a restaurant that's up for sale for 30 million rand. Why do you want to do that? Buy one for 2.5 million rand with 3-4 of your friends. Make sure that it works. Buy the second one, buy the third one, buy the fourth one.
All right.
Which brand is easiest? Spur is easiest. Everybody knows it. Second easiest, Panarottis, because it's a shared menu. Third easiest, Rockamama, because it's funky. You can put it in Rosebank, you can put it anywhere, and you'll make money.
Okay, thank you for that. I think due to technology doing what they will always do, I think it's Murphy that said anything that can go wrong would go wrong. I'm not able to see other questions that are there, and I want to apologize. Because we are emerging managers and professionals, I think I just need to do the closing statement. And I don't know, Osma, me.
There's a hand from Kululeko.
Hand from Kululeko. Kululeko, let's give you the floor. Let me then do this. Can we take 3 hands so that we've already, gone beyond what we scheduled? Can we take 3 hands and then we close it? Ntate Kululeko?
Thanks, Kanye. I just wanted to add to my colleague, Evan. The question was, what are the 3 most critical things? And if you were to just go back in mind to that slide where there's different formats, you would have realized that these businesses cost 7, 8, up to 10 million rand. And I think to put it in perspective, if you were to buy a car, I'm talking about Spare now, you're looking at 7.2, 9.4, 6.7. If you were to buy a car for 10 million rand, will you give it to somebody to drive it, or will you not drive it yourself? And that is what to put it in perspective.
Yes.
If you have your own 10 million rand Maybach standing outside, will you give it to somebody untrained? Will you give it to somebody without the skin in the game? If you will give it to somebody at all to drive it. So I think to put it in perspective, you need to be the driver. That's one of the non-negotiables. We have a couple of franchisees that have really scaled their groups and their enterprises. And at the beginning, they were there on the floor. And that is retail. You can look at retail in any other way, you need to be there. So just to add to my colleague's answer, that you wouldn't give somebody a car that costs 10 million rand to drive it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gula. That's brilliant.
Thank you. Prima, for letting me know.
There's Nomsa, there's
The
Zukiswa.
Sorry?
There's Nomsa Simelane, Zukiswa Silinga, Bongi Bako.
Yes, those are the last 3 that we are taking now. Thank you for that. Can the first one come in, and thank you for the assistance.
Good evening, colleagues. My name is Nomsa Simelane. I just wanted to ask to Tate Evan, are there preferred or recommended financial institutions that Spur Corporation works with for franchise funding? Secondly is, can capital be sourced through these partnerships or either the grants or funding programs?
We are missing you there. Your line is, can you repeat the second part?
The second part, am I audible?
Yeah, I heard the second part. I'm clear.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you are audible.
Thank
You're
you.
audible.
I was asking, can the capital be sourced through funding programs that Spur has or partnerships, or must it just be solely self-funded?
Okay. So I'm going to ask Musha just to tell you a little bit about the relationship that we have with the different banks, because we've gone out of our way to go build those relationships. So we don't have a sole partnership. We've got multiple partnerships with all the different banks. So that includes the National Empowerment Fund as a funder, and that includes your normal retail banks that we have. But Musha, maybe you can talk a little bit to that.
Thank you. Thanks, Nomsa. Good question. As I mentioned, we do have a transformation imperative, and we understand that ownership of the restaurants needs to reflect society. We are working on building relationships with the likes of the National Empowerment Fund, which we're really working to. So to answer your question, one can fund it with a blended solution of grant or something, and we're trying to see whether we can have a deal. Say Nomsa wants to open a restaurant and goes through all of the compliance stuff that they need to go through, and then when it gets to funding stage, how do we then set an example with this deal where and also the normal banks, so FNB, Standard Bank, ABSA, African bank who's really positioned themselves as a bank that wants to support African entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs in South Africa. In fact, they've made a bold statement to say they want to spend 1 trillion in the next 10 years on Black entrepreneurs. And they are all willing to talk and to come. And I guess the work is upon us to find one that works, one that works, and one that we can have a case, a business case to say, okay, we used grant funding here, and we used blended funding here, and here's what worked, and then we can take it forward. And I must say that the franchising industry is also in a similar case. And I can't speak for our competition, but I know I've been at franchise conferences and things. And what I also wanted to bring up here is that last week we hosted a landlord summit where we bring the landlords together, the shopping center owners together, and even them, they were asking us the questions. For instance, shopping centers are being built in townships. Why? When are we seeing your brands there? And that means there are opportunities to have people in those townships, because it's much easier to have someone from there run the brand rather than someone from outside come in. Not saying someone from outside cannot come in. So these are conversations that are happening. As I said, when I had my moment, this is a start of building a relationship, and to say to the brother that's hosting us now in place of Kanyo, we want to have those conversations, and we want to find those solutions that work, and we want to see what examples we can work. Because as I always say, my colleagues know here, when Spur was started in 1967, people supported each other. People, people came up with a plan, and it worked. So we can certainly do it in 2026, but reflecting South African society.
Right. Thank you for that. Can I take the next question? Because there was 3.
Hi,
Colleagues.
I actually lowered my hand. My name is Zuki. I'm in the Eastern Cape. My question fortunately was answered I have an answer from the first question. Thank you.
Thank you for that prompt one. Can I have the third one? I think the third and the last one. Colleagues, and I do apologize for going over the time. Is there a third one?
Yes, thanks, Chair. It's Bongi Bako from Gauteng, Deputy Chair of Gauteng BMF. I've got a question and a comment.
Okay.
Just on the 50% unencumbered funds, I'm just wondering and putting a transformation head, Chair, and trying to think, where would an HDI have such funds? It almost feels like as a group we'll keep window shopping and just admiring the demographics taking ownership of these franchises. That's one comment. And question is linked to my previous comment. What is a failure rate per demographic, and what are the reasons that that you attach to the failure rate? Thank you.
I want to just point out that the threshold of 50% is not arrived at easily, and we've been challenged by the industry to look at it and see is there anything that we can do with it. The reason I wanted to email you the cash flow so that you can play around with it, you will see when you punch in 100%, it completely destroys the business model. Remember I said you'll be taking home about 6%. If you take home 6%, it's 87,000 Rand. 87,000 Rand per month. If you take 100% loan, all of that money goes to paying the loan, which means literally for 5 years, you're working for the bank. And again, I say we've got this beautiful concept thing that we call stock fail. We've got friends, we've got family. Why don't you group together and buy a small one? And you will scale up. You will get to a point where that threshold is no longer an issue. When we started with Powers, he didn't have as many stores as he had. I'm using him as an example, and if he's on the line, he's going to probably not be too happy with me using him like that. We have started with Bitumelo, Oslola, and Ostikabelo. I don't know if they're online. They might also take me on if they are. But you start small with one, and then you group together with family members. And I promise you, in time, you will get to the right scale where that threshold doesn't mean that much anymore. So, looking at a 2.5 million rand investment in a small takeaway restaurant with 4 or 5 friends, you can put that money together. And remember as well, the thinking is not everybody is going to be able to become a restaurateur. We are appealing to business people. We are appealing to growth partners, meaning that by almost design, there always will be this, what's the threshold? How do we get everybody over the threshold? It's a good question, but play around with my spreadsheet and you will see it just completely destroys the model.
All right. Thank you for that, colleagues. I don't think there's any other questions. Going once, going twice. I think it's gone. There's a hand that has been raised. Can you come in? I think it's a legacy hand. Dr. Ivan,
Yes.
good day. I think today was an insightful and empowering session that we have.
Thank you.
And on behalf of Black Management Forum, through the Women Empowerment Desk led by Kanyo, including Daisy, I think I'm the only man in that committee. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Ervine Kekana, and the SpurCorp team, which is Moshe and Ntate Nkululeko, for opening up, real, tangible conversations about franchise ownership within our county. I think this is one element of one sector that's been hidden from us, that it's used to expedite people into being entrepreneurs. And that's one market that we left behind because of lacking of information. And I'm thankful that you took your time to actually come in and say, guys, I'm sitting here, let me help you guys. And I really hope that my colleagues, meaning my fellow Black Management Forum and people who want to actually move from where we are to where we want to be, which is participating in the economy meaningfully, we actually take this. I also need to point out that sometimes you don't have to own, you can actually do invest. Myself, I'm going to look for other people to invest, and they sit with you. I just wait for the money to come in. That's what I plan to do. But we heard tonight, success, according to me, if I sum up what today, success it's not just about capital. It's about being ready. I think you did mention that. You also mentioned the support, which is Tate Moshe that said, look, we really do hold your hand. And also would be, because you mentioned the part about other competitors. So it's very critical to choose the right brand, which is SpurCorp, to work the journey with you. And it's also, there's a part where you mentioned in your introduction, it's not necessarily we're doing it for money. We're doing it to build generational wealth and also to transform the landscape. So that we actually now participate, because we failed with the land. Sorry for saying that. So, but we can actually own the economy that the land needs. So, one outlet at a time. And you did emphasize in your spreadsheet to say, takes one, land, go, move on. You said the minimum is at least 6 months, if I got you correctly. Do something, take it for 6 months, then you start taking on the next one, which you said will do. Tate Moshe also explained that there's multiple plethora of investment opportunities, or I don't know what you call it, places where we can get the budget to actually do this. It's just us need to sit down and play around the system. But with that being said, I just want to say thank you to everyone who joined us this evening. I just want to say thank you so much for the deepest of my heart, because your presence shows that you are not just dreamers, you are builders also. And as BMF, we would like to keep creating this platform to connect, to empower, and to inspire everyone to make the change that we need within our country, within the spaces that they are. I think this is one way of using technology to influence, because there's also in from Eastern Cape. And I think in the journey and the map that you showed, there might be a need for 2 or 3, Spur restaurant, which you would be able to assist with. So let's continue conversations, and you also shared your contacts. We are also saying that you are BMF certified, as you did say that you come along. And this is what we also like as BMF, that our alumni or former members, everybody that knows what we stand for, they come back and they give back from the spaces that they are in to influence the well-being of Black managers, because we moved from Black managers, now we are dealing with entrepreneurs. But with that being said, colleague, I also want to take this to apologize by being 20 minutes above time. And it also shows that in future we must start early and have more time, because the comments that I'm getting was we need to discuss more. And I do really say, if we did not do justice to you, I apologize. And then if there's a need, Osmamsi will then send the slides. I don't know if it's available because it's IP. If you say we can share it, I will request that the same way we got the invites, that we share the ones that doesn't have things that are reflected to you. But in this case, I can just give you one last bite, because you are here before I say thank you to everyone.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you for listening.
All right.
I look
All
forward
right.
to your conversations.
All right. Thank you, colleagues. Have a good night. Bye.
Ciao. Cheers.
Bye. Bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That was fantastic. Really appreciate that. I'll clip the slides and I'll send them through to you. Okay.
Yeah, I think we can stay in until they all
No problem. I will. Did you manage to? I know you needed to catch a meeting. Did you manage to catch it?
Yes. Yeah, I'm managing it on my phone on the side.
Multitasking.
I'm not sure if we are able to go back into the back room, Mami, as the host. I just need Ivan and Moshe.
I do have a hard stop at 7:30. Do you want me to? Okay.